What specific problem does the fractal generative model aim to solve in the context of image generation? And why is pixel-by-pixel image generation particularly challenging?
The fractal generative model aims to solve the problem of efficiently generating high-dimensional, non-sequential data, specifically in the context of pixel-by-pixel image generation. This task is particularly challenging due to the high dimensionality and complexity of raw image data, which requires models to effectively learn the intricate structural patterns and interdependencies between a large number of pixels. Existing methods often struggle with likelihood estimation and fail to produce satisfactory images because they do not account for the non-sequential nature of image data. By employing a divide-and-conquer strategy, the fractal framework recursively models smaller subsets of pixels, allowing it to capture the intrinsic hierarchical structure of images while significantly reducing computational costs. This approach not only enhances the model's efficiency but also improves its ability to generate high-quality images, addressing the limitations faced by traditional generative models.
How does the proposed fractal generative model work? Illustrate its methodology step by step, particularly focusing on the recursive calling of generative models and how it relates to the partitioning of the image data.
The proposed fractal generative model operates by recursively constructing generative models from existing atomic generative modules, specifically using autoregressive models as the foundational units. The methodology begins with the first-level autoregressive model, which captures the interdependence between larger image patches, 16 by 16. This model then generates outputs that serve as inputs for the second-level autoregressive model, which further subdivides these patches into smaller 4 by 4 patches, continuing this recursive process. At each recursive level, the model effectively partitions the image data into manageable subsets, allowing for efficient handling of high-dimensional data while maintaining the intrinsic hierarchical structure of the images. Finally, the last-level autoregressive model samples the actual RGB values for each pixel, completing the pixel-by-pixel generation process while leveraging the exponential growth of outputs from the recursive structure.
Can you provide a specific example of how the fractal generative model constructs outputs recursively? Walk through the generation process of an image, detailing the interaction between different levels of autoregressive models.
The fractal generative model constructs outputs recursively through a structured interaction between multiple levels of autoregressive models. For instance, in the pixel-by-pixel image generation process, the first-level autoregressive model captures the interdependence between 16 by 16 image patches. It generates outputs that serve as inputs for the second-level model, which then focuses on the interdependence between 4 by 4 patches within each 16 by 16 patch. This process continues with the third-level autoregressive model, which models the relationships between individual pixels within each 4 by 4 patch. Finally, the last-level autoregressive model samples the actual RGB values for each pixel based on the autoregressively predicted RGB logits. This recursive structure allows the model to efficiently handle high-dimensional data while maintaining a manageable computational cost, as each level operates on progressively smaller subsets of the data.
What are the key theoretical or practical advantages of utilizing a fractal generative model compared to traditional generative approaches? Include metrics that highlight these benefits.
The fractal generative model offers significant theoretical and practical advantages over traditional generative approaches, primarily through its recursive architecture that efficiently handles high-dimensional non-sequential data. One key advantage is its computational efficiency. For instance, modeling a 256 by 256 image with the fractal framework incurs only twice the computational cost of modeling a 64 by 64 image, making it approximately 4,000 times more efficient than scale-space autoregressive models, which require full attention over large sequences. Additionally, the fractal model demonstrates superior likelihood estimation performance, achieving a negative log likelihood of 3.14 bits per dim, outperforming previous autoregressive models and remaining competitive with advanced diffusion methods. In terms of generation quality, the Fractal MAR variant achieves an FID of 6.15 and an inception score of 348.9, indicating high fidelity and detail in generated images. These metrics underscore the Fractal Generative model's ability to effectively capture the intrinsic hierarchical structure of data while maintaining high-quality outputs.
Describe the experimental setup used to validate the Fractal Generative model. What datasets were utilized, and what metrics were employed to assess the model's performance?
The experimental setup to validate the Fractal Generative model involved extensive testing on the ImageNet dataset at resolutions of 64 × 64 and 256 × 256. The evaluation encompassed both unconditional and class-conditional image generation, focusing on various performance aspects such as likelihood estimation, fidelity, diversity, and overall generation quality. To assess the model's performance, several metrics were employed, including negative log likelihood (NLL), Frechet inception distance (FID), inception score, as precision, and recall. These metrics provided a comprehensive assessment of the Fractal framework's effectiveness in generating high-quality images and accurately estimating likelihoods. The results indicated strong performance, particularly in likelihood estimation, where the Fractal model outperformed previous autoregressive models and remained competitive with advanced diffusion-based methods.
What limitations or drawbacks does the proposed model exhibit, especially in relation to model diversity and computational efficiency? Are there specific conditions under which the model may underperform?
The proposed Fractal Generative model exhibits limitations in terms of diversity, as indicated by its relatively weaker FID and recall scores compared to other methods, suggesting that the generated samples are less diverse. This lack of diversity may stem from the inherent challenge of modeling nearly 200,000 pixels in a pixel-by-pixel manner, which complicates the generation of varied outputs. Additionally, while the model demonstrates strong performance in likelihood estimation and image quality, its computational efficiency is contingent on the recursive structure. It is more efficient than single large autoregressive models, but may still face prohibitive costs when scaling to very high-dimensional data. The model may underperform in scenarios where the data lacks a clear hierarchical structure that can be effectively organized in a divide-and-conquer manner, as this is crucial for the Fractal framework's success. Overall, while the Fractal model shows promise, its performance may be limited in generating diverse outputs and handling certain data types that do not fit its recursive architecture.